Joke joke, kill kill, that more or less sums up the Suicide Squad, the latest installment in the DC Comics franchise. Shiny, busy and self-satisfied to a fault, this chapter follows the comic book movie template, now with 20% more gore. It also has enough cinematic allusions to give critics something to chew on. Thank you, James Gunn, for giving us the super violent, super funny, super weird DC movie we've been waiting for. Even if Gunn's version of the Suicide Squad is not as fixated on DC Comics minutiae as the first movie, it still contains a fair number of Easter eggs and references to comic book history. Based on the names and places featured in the Suicide Squad, I'm gonna guess James Gunn is a huge fan of the old John Ostrander Suicide Squad comics, and also of Frank Miller's The Dark Knight Returns. In case you missed, here are the 10 coolest Easter eggs in the Suicide Squad. Task Force X. The DC Comics series about this team is always called Suicide Squad, but as Amanda Waller explains in the film's first scenes, their official name has always been Task Force X. But yeah, pretty much everyone calls them the Suicide Squad except...
What, we some kinda Suicide Squad?
Calendar Man. As Waller introduces Bloodsport to his new team, they pass different inmates in Belle Reve prison, including a bald man with the months of the year written on his forehead. This is Calendar Man, a Batman villain who only murders people on specific holidays. He's played in the Suicide Squad by Sean Gunn, the brother of writer/director James Gunn. Sean also did the motion caption for Weasel in the film, and appears in James's Guardians of the Galaxy films as Kraglin and as the mock-up artist for Rocket. Corto Maltese. Most of the Suicide Squad is set in the fictional nation of Corto Maltese. This made-up place has appeared in numerous DC comics through the years. It debuted in Frank Miller's famed The Dark Knight Returns miniseries. The country's name was inspired by another, but unrelated, Italian comic book character created in the 1960s by Hugo Pratt. Project Starfish. This one's obvious to any DC Comics fan, but the Project Starfish that the Suicide Squad is sent to destroy is indeed Starro the Conqueror. This alien menace debuted in The Brave and the Bold number 28, the very first appearance of the Justice League of America, as in the Suicide Squad. In the film, Thinker gives him the name Starro the Conqueror as a derisive insult, because he's kept him locked up in a laboratory for the last 30 years. A date with Senator Cray. Listen closely as Waller practices her pudding and you'll hear her mutter something about going to play golf with Senator Cray. That character appeared in early issues of the first Suicide Squad comics series. After he was killed, his son Adam later briefly joined the Suicide Squad as one of the many characters to go by the code name The Atom. Freedom Fighters. When Rick Flag introduces the new Suicide Squad to Sol Soria and the revolutionaries who want to overthrow the Corto Maltesian government, he refers to a group as the Freedom Fighters. It could be a coincidence, but there have been several different DC Comics groups known as the Freedom Fighters. Harley's red flags. When Harley kills General Suarez, she says recently, "I made a promise to myself that the next time I got a boyfriend, I'd be on the lookout for red flags." This is about as close as the Suicide Squad gets to acknowledging the events of Harley's previous DC movie appearance, Birds of Prey, where she finally got over her relationship with the Joker and became slightly less deranged in the process. Based on her behavior in the Suicide Squad, let's call it very slightly less deranged. Star Labs. The Polka Dot Man of DC Comics had slightly different powers than the one in the Suicide Squad. That guy's polka dots were technological, and he could use them to create weapons and gadgets. The film's version claims that he got his powers from his mother, who worked as a scientist at Star Labs and was obsessed with having superhero children. She experimented on him and gave him his terrible, powerful gifts. In the DC universe, Star Labs is basically the most famous scientific organization on the planet. It's also appeared in several previous DC movies, including Justice League. That's where Victor Stone's father Silas worked, and where he turned his son into Cyborg. James Gunn's mentor. Look for a shrimpy old guy as the Suicide Squad enters the bar in Corto Maltese. John Cena nudges him out of the way. That's Lloyd Kaufman, the co-founder of Troma Studios, and the director of The Toxic Avenger. As the head of Troma, Kaufman gave Gunn his first big break when he hired him to rewrite the script for the company's 1997 Rick Flag's yellow shirt. After he's rescued by the Suicide Squad, Rick Flag dons a yellow shirt for the rest of the film. That's a nod to the costume Flag wore in the old Suicide Squad comics from the late 80s, when he led a team of degenerate supervillains into highly dangerous combat missions wearing a bright yellow t-shirt. Why would an elite soldier wear the worst possible camouflage into battle? I have absolutely no idea. There you have it guys, 10 coolest Easter eggs in Suicide Squad. If you liked the video please share and subscribe, bye bye.